What's going on, guys, and welcome to episode 9 of the Modern Mentality Podcast. I am your host, Kyle, and on this podcast, we talk about mindset talks for men chasing greatness, discipline, growth, and an all-around better version of themselves. So, if that's you. Make sure you hit that subscribe button so you never miss an episode. Today's episode happens to be about the man who's lost his edge, who knows he's capable of more, but feels stuck. Sound familiar? I've been there plenty of times. Can't wait to dive into it. My guest today, Mr. Mark Aylward, is a coach who helps high-performing men rebuild their confidence and influence through accountability, honesty, and real leadership. Mark has 30 plus years of helping people rebuild after loss and or career uncertainty. He has built and sold 2 multi-million-dollar staffing companies, and he now coaches men on reflection, responsibility, and real action, not excuses. I had a fantastic conversation with Mark, and some of the subjects we covered were rebuilding confidence, self-leadership, and turning pain into purpose. More specifically, diving into his early roots for becoming a natural leader and when he noticed when people basically were drawn towards him as a leader. Turning pain into purpose, basically realizing pain equals experience and experience equals service. We dive into self-leadership in action. We go over his R.E.A.L Framework, literally R-E.A.L. Each one has a different definition, as well as reshaping 7 pillars for personal development. And then we're going to jump into some of his success in his career, and then of course we're going to go over 5 rapid fire questions with Mark. So Mark has a ton of accomplishments under his belt. He has a BBA in marketing from the University of Notre Dame, and for those of you that don't know what BBA means, it's a Bachelor of Business Administration. He has a Certificate of Excellence in Entrepreneurship from the University of Central Florida. He's a trainer and career counselor with the Central Florida Coalition for the Homeless. He's a judge, business mentor with Notre Dame's Gidget Center for Entrepreneurship. He's also a SCORE mentor, Orlando, Florida chapter. This is an absolutely loaded episode, so I appreciate you guys taking the time out of your day to listen to it. This is also available on Spotify, Amazon, and Audible, all the platforms that you get your podcasts on. So even if you don't want to watch the visual version, you can always put your headphones in and listen to it at work, whatever the case may be. But this is a loaded episode. Thank you guys for watching, and let's jump into it. Mr. Mark Aylward. I also just wanted to mention really quick that the very end of this cuts off very abruptly. You'll notice that. Don't worry, you're not going crazy, but I just wanted to let you know that. Enjoy the episode. Alrighty guys, so in today's episode, it's for the man who has lost his edge, essentially, who knows he's capable of more, but feels stuck. My guest today, Mark Aylward, is a coach who helps high-performing men rebuild their confidence and influence through accountability, honesty, and real leadership. He has 30 plus years of helping people rebuild after loss and or career uncertainty. He has built and sold 2 multi-million-dollar staffing companies, and he coaches men on reflecting responsibility, real action, not excuses. So without further ado, let's welcome Mark. Thank you very much, sir, for taking time out of your day.
Yeah, Kyle, thanks for having me, man. Pleasure to be here.
Awesome. So today we're talking about rebuilding confidence, some self-leadership, and turning pain into purpose. So I want to get into some early roots for yourself. So I know that you're a middle child, right? Is that correct?
Yeah, I'm a second child of 4 kids.
Okay, gotcha. So I'm assuming that helped you develop a lot of emotional intelligence at an early age? I'm assuming maybe
Yeah,
not.
I feel like it put me in the position of mediator,
Okay.
which led to negotiation, and I was kind of responsible for calming things down when things got out of hand. It felt like.
I
So
got you. That I mean that that can get a little annoying. I feel like um, I have team captain and leader, so people gravitated towards you naturally. Does that sound correct too?
yeah, I was captain of my little league team all the way through high school, and group leader. Got selected foreman on a couple of juries I was on, so it just seemed to come my way. The running things, managing things, leading things, and I'm comfortable with it.
Okay. So I kind of feel like you just answered this a little bit, but when did you first realize that people looked to you for guidance?
Yeah. I tell a story. Excuse me, I got a piece of ice from my drink.
It's okay.
I tell a story that, and I was playing in Little League. I think I was about 6 years old. My dad was the coach. He was an airline captain, so he as well was a leader himself. And he said to me one day, "Do you realize that you're the leader of this team?" And I said, "Dad, I'm six. I don't really know what that means." And he said, "Well, let's do a little something." And we went home that night after practice, and he said, tomorrow. I want you to wear one of my big white T-shirts to practice." I said, "Whatever. It sounds cool. It's comfortable, you know." So we went down and we practiced, and I had a big white T-shirt on my dad, so it was like a tent, it was
Oh
like a
wow.
dress. And I didn't think twice about it, but we went the next day to practice, and every other kid on the team was wearing his dad's white T-shirt. And it struck me. I don't know that I could have articulated what exactly that meant, but I knew that these guys seem to emulate me. They seem to want to look up to me. They want me to kind of be in charge, it feels like. So although I couldn't articulate it, I do remember that quite vividly.
So when you got that feeling and noticed that, was that something that you basically were like, oh wow, I would like this for like the rest of my life, pretty much, or more of it, maybe?
Well, it certainly wasn't intimidating. I was comfortable with it, and I think it had a lot to do with I always looked at my dad as he was the leader. He was captain of the airplane. He was the father of the house. He took leadership positions in the church. He took everywhere he went, he led. So it was familiar to me.
Gotcha. Okay. Not a problem. So, how did those like early lessons essentially about like leading others prepare for you to like lead yourself and eventually lead some of the companies?
Well, I remember when I graduated from college, I kind of jumped into the normal career path because I didn't know any better, and that was companies came to the campus and interviewed, and I took some interviews and I got a couple offers and I accepted one of them, and I went to work for a very large company, Metropolitan Life Insurance Company in Chicago, out of college. And I was just kind of floating along thinking this is what you're supposed to do next and whatever. And then I ended up working for a couple people that I didn't care for. I didn't have any respect for their intellect or their capability or their consistency. They were lacking. They were people in positions of authority, I like to say, but they weren't leaders.
Mm.
And so I discovered very quickly, I don't think I want to work for anybody else.
Mm.
So I'm going to start moving in the direction of a more independent approach. And that's when I bumped into the business of recruiting. Also got my girlfriend pregnant and had to step up and become a dad. So between the personal responsibility and the professional kind of exploration into something more independent, I found my mentor and I worked for him he was a small business owner and he gave me equity in the company. And so although I was working for somebody else, it was a step in that direction towards independence and entrepreneurship. And then when he sold the company, I went to work for the acquiring company, realized immediately I did not want to work for the acquiring company, fulfilled my contract and started my own company.
Wow,
So
interesting.
it was a progression of events, not a light switch that I turned on. It happened over about 5 or 6 years.
Okay, okay. Hey, I mean, that's still a pretty good time frame, though. I feel like. I mean, obviously, I'm much younger than you, but I mean, I feel like that's still it's better than waiting, 10 years. You know what I mean?
Well, I think that, people your age and everybody at this day and age, the work landscape has changed so much. The rules have changed so much. I was always kind of a rebel when it came to well, why are we doing things that way? Well, it's because we've always done them that way. I said, that's not a good enough reason, you know?
Right?
So I've always been kind of pushing the limits on process and rules and policies and, pushing the envelope with regard to being independent, you know?
Yep, that's one of the main reasons why I wanted to have you on here is because I myself am taking that same exact path, and I've noticed from a personal trainer standpoint, it's very hard to basically get people to do what either A, you want them to do, or B, you're trying to have them accomplish, and especially when apply yourself to a bunch of companies to like work for and stuff like that, and then something happens. Either you don't get the job, or you just have differences or stuff like that. I've found it that I run into the same exact issue, and that's exactly why try and take my own path with personal training, launching this podcast, and just doing my own thing. Because I've also realized that if you want like any sort of like career movement or anything like that, a lot of the time it just comes down to connections and people that you know, rather than just hitting the apply button on Indeed or something like that. I mean, it works, but I've personally just found that that works a little bit better for me. But just wanted to shift gears. Thank you for your answer, by the way. That was a great response. Sure. So I wanted to move into turning pain into purpose. Obviously, that's kind of a broad statement, but I have for my full 4 bullet points, I've got realizing pain equals experience, and then experience equals service. I have from rebuilding himself to helping other men from rebuilding himself to helping other men rebuild others. And then when he came to realize that most men don't know basically what they want. So if you could basically turn those 4 bullet points into basically how you could take the pain from that and turning that into purpose.
Well, I think that you discover pretty early in life that hardship is a thing. You can call it pain, you can call it adversity, you can call it a challenge, you can call it life. But I think that when I have the luxury of looking back on many years, being a dad, raising kids, building a couple companies, selling them, getting divorced, losing everything. It's an interesting movie. But I think you have 2 choices, no matter who you are, no matter what you're doing, and that's when something confronts you.
Mm.
And regardless of the depth of the challenge or the breadth of the challenge, you have 2 choices, right? You can immediately seek to find blame. How did this happen? Who can I blame? Circumstances, people, whatever. Or you can say, what can I learn from this? How did this happen? How might I keep it from happening again? And how can I take it and say, there's a lesson in here? There's a myriad of famous people. Thomas Edison is one that comes to mind. He said, I didn't make 1,000 mistakes in the inventing of the light bulb. There were 1,000 steps in the process. So it's how you look at things. It's not what happens to you. It's how you respond to what happens to you. And I think that, after coming through my personal hardship, getting sole custody of my kids as my own attorney, and I'm not an attorney and I'm a guy. So you can imagine how crazy it was to give me sole custody, that losing everything material in the process, but gaining, relationships with my kids that are solid to this day. I just thought coming out of that, when I was looking around in the darkest of times, there were no resources for me. There were a lot of resources for women, but there weren't a lot of resources for men. And then on top of that, men are supposed to not talk about emotions. They're not supposed to whine. They're not supposed to emote. They're not supposed to have feelings. And wherever you are on whatever side of that opinion is less relevant than it's true. We're encouraged to just get up, man, rub some dirt on it, get over it, move forward, stop whining.
Mm-hmm.
And I wasn't looking for anybody to whine to. I was looking for somebody to say, this is what you should do next. And don't worry about that. And these are the steps in the process upcoming. But I had to navigate my own way. And when I was in the courthouse for, I don't know, almost 10 years on a monthly basis, I would look around and I would see these guys, and they were sad, they were angry, they were anxious, They were wandering around, lost. And I thought, I spent my life helping people progress professionally. This isn't that different. And now that I have this lived experience and I've overcome this, maybe I could make myself available to some of these guys that are like, in particular, very successful materially, and then either empty inside without any significant hardship other than midlife, or something hit them in the face, like a health scare or a relationship or a divorce or financial hardship. Something happened that shook them to their core, and objectivity left them. They became emotional and vulnerable. And I'm just looking to help pick those guys back up because I know most of the forks in that road, if that
Yeah.
makes sense. No.
No, it definitely does. Now, my question would be, a the if there was any type of like difficulty getting through to them, maybe not relating, but getting to be like, okay, I'm going from this person that you see every day to let's actually help you, and like what made that, I guess, conversion, or you just essentially helping them, like what made that work? Was it just the fact that they knew you?
Well, the challenge I have is getting guys to open up, right?
Okay, right.
And so it's not finding them. It's twofold for me. One is obviously until they know, like, and trust me, I'm just a guy,
Right,
right?
right.
So my mission is to put content out there. I don't know how you found me or I found you, Kyle. I don't remember, but it was like once I get in conversation with somebody, my odds are pretty good because it's a conversation I've had thousands of times with thousands of people. What do you want to do next?
Right.
So it doesn't really matter if there's a hardship or not. You want to do something other than what you're doing. I know how to help you with that. So once I build trust, which is based on content, which is based on being on other people's podcasts and other people hearing me talk and how I think, then it's like someone will say or think, that sounds resonant to me. That sounds interesting to me. He sounds like he knows what he's talking about. And the next step is, well, can I trust him? So
Yeah.
that, in order to trust someone, you have to have some exchange of experience with them, which is exactly what we're doing now.
Exactly.
Like one would hope at the end of this podcast, you trust me a little more than you did before, and I trust you a little more because I know you a little more.
Right.
And
Absolutely.
then it becomes human connection, which I think is we're all missing. Everybody's hungering and thirsty for more human connection because social media and AI are just separating us, and politics are dividing us. So we're not shaking hands and hugging each other as much as we used to. And I think there's opportunity there for human connection too. So it's a series of familiarity, trust, and then okay, I'm going to put my foot, dip my foot in the pool of Mark, and I'm going to be a little bit vulnerable and see if he can help me. So it's a big ask, but I've got a pretty good track record of not judging people, being empathetic, and giving them a path forward. Where prior to that it was a little cloudy. Clarity is a big deal. I bring clarity to most of the conversations I have.
Okay, that's good. So was there a time where it could be, I mean, I'm just asking in general for any time, but more specifically though, maybe when you were first starting to try to help people, did anyone end up ghosting you at all? Like, let's say like you were helping them for like just a little bit, a month or two, and progress seemed like there was a little bit of progress, and then just out of absolutely nowhere, they either changed or they just completely ghosted you. I'm asking because that's what has happened to me, especially for personal training. So I just didn't know if there would be any type of advice or anything that you have if you've encountered that.
Yeah, you just got to get over that.
Yeah, right.
It's not it doesn't make you unique, Kyle.
No, 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 not at all.
I wish I could say that it did, but it happens to all of us, and
Correct.
it's not. I think that goes back to my distinction earlier. It's not what happens to you; it's how you respond to what happens to you. And if I were, let's say I'm a trainer, I'm in your shoes, and somebody, great session, great intro, signed up, paid, couple of sessions, and then all of a sudden Tuesday no show,
Yeah.
and it's like what the
Yeah, it's like the nature of it.
Well, You just never know. You know, what
Right.
I tell people, as a for instance, I used to train a lot of salespeople, hundreds of them, and recruiters. That was my part of my responsibility as the owner of a couple of companies. And I would say to people, if you're on the phone with somebody, I don't care what the context is, and someone is rude to you out of nowhere, you have to immediately stop the conversation and do something like this. Now, I got to interrupt you. I need to ask a favor of you. I need to understand what I've done or what I've said that makes you feel like you can treat me with such disrespect,
Okay.
because I want to make sure that I don't do that same thing with the next person I talk to. Now, you haven't done anything, so it's kind of a setup, right? But
Right.
it's immediate. It's a demanding of respect, being polite and not being arrogant. And I found most of the time the person would look at me, "Are you crazy? You want me to say that?" I'm like, "No, you have to say that
Hmm.
for your own survival. Because
Okay.
if you let that person get away with that, it's going to eat away at your soul over time.
So
You're
true.
you can't give away your self-respect, your dignity. And people will try and take it from you all the time. My experience is 90% of those people will say, "Mark, I'm so sorry. You know, my wife just left me. My kid's sick. I got into a car accident on the way. Something happened that has nothing to do with you." And they brought it into your conversation. We do it all the time. It's human nature.
Hmm.
We project. And so the other 10% of those people are assholes. And it's really good to know early who the assholes are so you don't have to waste time with them. And that has held firm for me my whole life, you know? So you have to demand respect. Demand is the wrong word. You have to just interrupt and say, "I'm sorry, you're being disrespectful. What did I do to deserve that?" "Well, Mark, in fact, nothing, and I owe you an apology." And the other beautiful thing about that, Kyle, is when someone apologizes, the opportunity to develop a deep trust and relationship goes through the roof, because that's a very human thing to do. It's a very vulnerable thing to do. So anyway, not to get off on a tangent,
No, no.
that's a powerful lesson.
No, that was great. Thank you for sharing that. I just want to move on because that was actually basically what everything I had for that. So I have self leadership in action. Um, can you walk us through your real process? You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, yeah. So the real framework is just something I came up with. It's a compilation of a lot of different things, but I found another thing that's necessary when you're trying to market your services is people need to be able to understand what you do, how you do it, and what the transformation might be if they choose to engage your services. And because what I do covers so many different things, and it's emotional, it's professional, it's personal, it's familial, a lot of personal stuff, a lot of deep conversation, I thought I need to put some structure around this. So I built this framework and I called it REAL, R-E-A-L, and it's R is for reflect. And that's what I do. Everybody starts there. We sit there and we just go back and forth, reflecting on who you are and where you are and how you got here and where you want to go and what's in your way. Deep self-reflection, which most men never do. And
True.
it's very difficult to do on your own. Having an agent or an advocate, someone like me, maybe someone else, but someone like me that can guide you through that reflection, kind of look in the mirror, very powerful. And you come out of that and you evaluate is the E. You evaluate after all this reflection. Okay, what are my strengths? What are my superpowers? What are my weaknesses? What do I really want to do? What are my real values? Who am I really? Not who I profess to be to the world, but who am I on the inside? And that evaluation process is the next phase after you reflect. And then the A becomes activate. Okay, now that we've reflected and evaluated and prioritized and listed, um, now let's activate a specific plan. And that begins the building of that plan. And there's two components to any plan. One is strategic, long term, bigger picture, 30,000 feet. The other is tactical. What are the tools? You know, are we remotely working? Are we going to have employees? What are the tactics? You know, and then the last component is to lead. And my contention is you can't lead other people until you learn to lead yourself. What does it mean to lead yourself? It means having good habits, being consistent, showing up, modeling behavior, you know? And so that's kind of a little bit of an inner workout. If it's like being a dad, quite honestly, my children don't do what I say; they do what I do, right?
Right.
Right. So you have to be able to model behavior before you go out and take responsibility for the well-being of someone else's life. And so I spend a lot of time before you go lead them. Hang on a second. Are
Right.
we really modeling the proper behavior? And that's challenging because we're all flawed. We're all sinful. We all make mistakes. Consistency is hard. Showing up every day prepared is difficult. So once that self-leadership mechanism is kind of built and fortified, then if you so choose, you can go off and start leading other people. So that's the kind of the progression of that R.E.A.L framework.
So for men nowadays, what would the simplest way for everything you just said, if you could put it into one sentence, what would it be? If you could.
Personal accountability.
Personal accountability. Love
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome.
It's am I taking responsibility for my own actions, or am I seeking to blame other things and other people? Those are two different I can't help one, but I can big time help the other, you know?
So, all right. So, all right. So, for success, right? Can be defined in so many different ways, but after achieving the success that you've had, what did losing it all teach you about who you are?
I think that, yeah, it's a great question, and I've been able to answer it quite a few times, so maybe I'll get it right this time. But I think the things that I took away from that, not in any particular order. Two of my children are girls, so I love dogs. Dogs are fine.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that.
Hey, that's cool, man. In today's day and age, I hear kids, I hear yard work, I hear dogs. It's
Yeah, it's
all
inevitable.
it's all good. My daughters, because I really had to act as their mother and their father, because their mother kind of punched, she disappeared, and they didn't talk to her for 10 years, and now they have kind of a non-existent relationship. So as they grew into teenagers and young adults, I was the person they went to for motherly advice and fatherly advice. And that did a couple of things for me, Kyle. It improved my listening skills dramatically, because in my experience, women often don't really want men to solve their problems. They just want men to listen to their issues and just be empathetic. And I think that's a skill most men don't have. And my daughters just thrust that skill upon me. I was forced to learn that skill. And I say that kind of facetiously. The other thing is, it gives you such a level of humility. I mean, I had everything. I was the king. I had all kinds of money. I had big cars and big houses and pools and vacations, and anything I wanted, I had access to materially. And I don't ever think I was not an asshole about that, but I was pretty puffed up, and got knocked down. Humility is a wonderful quality, and I think that it breeds this sense of, I really am not judging anyone, because who am I to judge? We're all susceptible to being crushed. We're all susceptible to hardship. We're all susceptible to loss. And once you experience that and are able to put it into perspective and come out the other end, the way that I help men now is that you could tell me anything you wanted about your hardship, and I would say, gosh, that's rough, man, but let's figure out what to do with that. It's not like, oh, because you did this or said that or experienced this, that you're somehow less than I am.
Right.
No, that's not how it works. We're all the same. And some of us just don't realize that yet.
So true. So
yeah.
true.
Yeah.
So I wanted to dive a little bit deeper into that question. So the question is, what did rebuilding look like for you day to day, basically in that season of your life? And I'm asking just because I'm trying to, my ultimate goal is to build my own personal training gym. Don't really know like the size of it or anything, but that's my ultimate goal. So I'm very curious just on people that don't have a simple ride to whatever they're trying to accomplish. Just trying to see how they go about their day to day to get to where they're trying to go.
Yeah, it's a big question. The
It
first thing
is.
that the first thing that pops into my head is, this guy. He's pretty famous in some circles. Alex Hormozy.
Alex Hermosi. I feel like I've heard of that. What
So
did he
you
do?
should write it down. Hormozi.
I'm gonna write it right now.
Yeah, Alex. He is a. I don't know him. I know of him, and he comes into my LinkedIn world because he does a lot of online stuff. But he started out as a trainer, a physical trainer, and he built a couple of gyms up, and then he crashed and burned a couple times, but he's a gazillionaire now.
Oh wow.
And
Okay.
I think that if you start to follow, if you go back to his origin story and follow what he did to, the biggest challenge for personal trainers, among other things, is trading time for money. How do you get away from, I got to be physically present to help this person get fit, to I can scale this with courses and videos. And I think that if you were to follow his all the way back to the beginning of time, which wasn't longer than 5 or 10 years ago for him, his recent success is recent. Hundreds of millions of dollars is the last few years of his life. But he talks about hardship and overcoming loss and failing. But
Okay.
his track is probably going to be very helpful for you to get in the middle of and start to follow him.
Okay.
Other than that, it's kind of all the same. I think the things that people that are successful have in common. Most of the people that succeeded, in my view, in my world, that I saw, that I knew, whether they were competitors or colleagues or partners or friends, they weren't the smartest people. They were the people that worked the hardest on the most consistent basis. They showed up every day, even when they didn't want to. They did the mundane, meaningless work required. I love sports, so the gym is a comfortable place for me. And the analogies are, you don't go to the gym and do 900 sit-ups on Monday and have a six-pack on Friday.
Right.
You go to the gym on Monday and you do 5. And then you come back on Tuesday and maybe you do 10, or maybe you do 5 again, but you're back on Tuesday and Wednesday and Thursday and Friday. And you don't look in the mirror for 90 days because there's no point,
Exactly.
right? And then you have to discover that most of being in shape has to do with what you eat, not how you move. And then you discover something else. And then you just put these little pieces together and you just be patient and you build a process, a system, a series of steps that are easy to accomplish, enjoyable, preferably effective, and you're able to do them over time. And then you build these building blocks. And as soon as you can get to the point, I don't care what your business is, to say, if I'm comfortable with this system, this process works, I've vetted it myself, it's worked on a few people, and it fits the bill. It's simple, it's not expensive, it's not easy, but it's not like really hard to do. Anyway, it has all these qualities that make it sustainable. And then you buy into this idea, I'm not going to think about results for a while. All I'm going to do is adhere to the process consistently over time. And I know if I stick to the process, the outcome will just be a byproduct of that. It's only a matter of time. And that's a mindset game. It's a simplicity game. But I think that if you're struggling to build a fitness business, I would almost guarantee you have opportunities to improve processes, systems, and documentation way before you get to people. Does that make sense?
I believe so. Could you go into that last part just like for like 2 minutes? Do you think?
Well, I'll just take my own business. When I
Yeah.
first started in the recruiting space, I obviously was working for somebody else because I didn't know what I was doing. I got handed a box of yellow cards with names and phone numbers, and they said, call 100 people a day for the first week.
Oh wow. Okay.
And I'm
Okay.
like, okay, well, what do I say?
Yeah.
And they just say hello. Tell them you're a recruiter and you think maybe they're a software engineer, and maybe if you had a better job than the one they're working in now, would they be interested in hearing more? No one's going to say no to that.
Yeah.
And
True.
then you have to follow up and say, "Oh, tell me what you do. Tell me what you want to do. Tell me why you're not enjoying what you're doing." So, but that box of cards and 100 phone calls a day, that's very intimidating,
Yes.
right? That's like most people are going to go, I can't do that.
Right.
Well, anybody can do it, right?
Right.
They might not do it well.
Right. Right.
That's the point of the 100 calls, because 6 months from now, you're going to be wanting to make 20 calls a day, and every one of those conversations is going to be a good conversation that might lead to a relationship
Right.
and a placement and a fee. But it's that initial pain of, one brick on top of another brick on top of another brick, and then 3 months later there's a wall, right? It's like, I can't build a wall. Yeah, you can, but you got to do it one brick at a time.
Okay.
And
Gotcha.
you could, there are analogies. Pick a profession, and I could break it down to that: sit-ups, one brick at a time, one phone call at a time. You have to have the process surrounded, like, this is step 1, this is step 2, this is step 3, this is step 4. And I just do 1, 2, 3, 4 every day. And after I finish number 4, I start again on the next one on step 1. And then you discover, as you put one brick on top of another, you discover nuance, you discover technique, you discover common objections that you can overcome. It's in the doing and the failing that you learn and get better. And most people give up because failing for a few months feels like failure, when in fact, if you just went one more month, you would see the success on the other side.
Absolutely. And that's why I know I'm really passionate about what I'm doing, because I've been doing it for a few years now. Definitely not like, oh, you've been doing this for over like 10 or 20 years. Like, I've been doing film and editing for over 10 years. Went to school for it and everything. But as far as like the personal training goes, I just got into that within the last few years. But I'm very passionate about it all. And the way that I see it is, I don't really care what happens with it. I just show up with it every single day, and just exactly what you're saying, just following the process and just believing that eventually, as long as I keep doing this, something is going to happen. So
yeah. I mean, I would encourage you to pursue autobiographies, and I think Alex is. I know he's written a couple books. I don't know. I've not read any of them, but I think like the historical figures, the presidents of the United States, athletic figures, baseball players, you just hear the stories about Michael Jordan or Larry Bird or Wayne Gretzky. It's like they all have the same story. They were gifted in some capacity, but every single one of them worked their asses off way harder than everyone else. Like when the game was over, Larry Bird was in the stadium when all the fans were gone, running the stairs and shooting free throws. Michael Jordan, same way. It's not there's no magic to it. We just don't see the work. We only see the championship ring.
Exactly. You see the highlights. Yep.
Yeah.
All right. So I know we got about 5 minutes left, which kind of sucks, but I would definitely love to do another episode with you again, just because this was short. But I think this would be a great time to do the 5 rapid fire questions. Sure. Basically, I'm just gonna fire off these questions, and then you just kind of give me like a short response, basically, if you don't mind. Sure. So one belief men must let go. One belief men must let go of to rebuild.
Their egos.
Okay.
Their egos.
Okay. Advice for a man who feels he's lost his confidence.
Confidence is rebuilt through action, not through theory, not through reading about things. It's built through action. And if I were a man who has lost his confidence, and I have been such a man, I would say, take a walk, get some exercise, open up the Bible if you're so inclined. Take a look at what you're eating, look into breath work. It's action. It's small actions repeated over time. It's not one day I'm going to wake up and have an epiphany and my confidence is going to all of a sudden reemerge. No, be patient, get rid of your ego, put it off to the side, and take small steps in forward movement, whatever that means.
Okay. That actually, you kind of answered the third one, which was a daily practice that centers your mind. You kind of gave a few.
I can expand on that. I'll give you a little bit of my routine is I get up pretty early, relatively. It's probably around 5:30, 6 o'clock at the latest, sometimes 5. I do the bed making, coffee making, drink water thing, and then it's a breath work. 15 minutes of breath work, and I follow a guy named Wim Hof, H-O-F, pretty pretty well known in those circles. I read a prayer from I went to the University of Notre Dame, and so they send me a daily prayer, and I read that with my girlfriend and reflect on that. And then I do some stretching, and I choose an activity, which is I either do a work in the yard for an hour or I go for an hour long walk. And then I do some journaling, and I'm before anyone else is awake, I'm done with that morning routine. And that's all. It's pretty simple stuff. It doesn't require money, doesn't require a lot of time, but it triggers physical, it triggers oxygen, it triggers spirituality, it triggers emotion, gets my brain going. I think a morning routine that's simple is essential. It doesn't have to look like mine, but that gives you some idea of how simple it could be.
Okay, awesome. So I'm actually just gonna cancel the other two questions because we don't have enough time. But I wanted to ask where people can find your work. I know I'm gonna put your website across, but any social media or any projects or anything like that you got?
Yeah, LinkedIn is my. It's almost a better place to go than my website. So my name again is Mark with a K, and the last name's Aylward.
Yes, sir.
And if you go on LinkedIn and punch that in, you'll find me. It's a unique name.
Okay, awesome. Well, I definitely want to do another one with you just because we were short with time, and I do have a few other questions that I would really like to get the answer on. So who knows? Maybe I could be on your podcast.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that. We don't have a guest format. Me and a co-host, my buddy. And we've tried 2 or 3 times to have a guest on, and we just couldn't get it. With 3 people, it's just challenging. We're not going to rule it out, but no, I'd be happy to come back, Kyle. I would invite you to reflect on everything, see where the gaps are that you'd like me to fill, and then put some notes together, and just invite me back whenever you'd like. I'd love to come back.
Awesome. I definitely will. Well, thank you for your time again, and